In 2025, I sold over $1 million worth of product on Amazon, and this is episode 14 of me scaling my business to $3 million in 2026. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys March's final P&L, which is really exciting to show. And I'm also going to be talking about how the first week of April went and just everything that's been going on in the business up until this point. Before we get into the video, one thing I want to mention, I do have a free newsletter linked in the description below designed to help you start or scale your Amazon business. I drop free game in there once a week on Wednesdays, so definitely feel free to subscribe and check it out. And with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this week's episode. All right, so on the Google Doc, let's go ahead and get into how this week went. So we bought about 812 units. Again, partial units are being bought here and there, so that's why that's 0.43. Average cost of goods of about $25 and an ASP of 48. Unique ASINs we've bought so far this month is 90, which is pretty crazy. 35% ROI, 17.9% margin. Estimated sales on that is about 40K. Spend is looking to be about 20K with on-hold spend of about 15, and our profits are looking to be about $7,000. So not the greatest first week of spend, if I'm going to be honest, but it's been just because I've been so busy with other stuff in regards to the business. And we're going to go ahead and get into that in a bit. And then what our net profit and net margin are looking like after essentially all of our projected fees and things like that is about $5,000 to end off week one. So again, not very happy with where we're at there. Really want to go for another 30K month in April, but it's going to take time to obviously get the other systems and things built out. So got to be mindful of that. Moving into the sheet, you guys can see we now have a new April table here with all of our new information. So to end off March is essentially what all of these numbers were pulled for. So March's final numbers, and these are actually like final numbers, had an ASP of about 48.67, ACOG of 26.50. We're still paying around $1.40 prep per unit. Overhead now is about $500 more. So I think when we get to May, I'm going to start looking into ways to start cutting overhead. I do know some of that is definitely caused from a couple new hires we made this month. So obviously that is going to raise our overhead substantially. And it might even be more than 4,500, but this is just what March ended at P&L wise. Return rate is now at a 4.2%, which is better than 4.5. Sellable returns, however, did take a dip, so kind of just traded that off there. Cost to rev ratio is about 45.55%, and then prep to no prep drag average is about 1.84%. So now we're seeing that the fee that our prep center is taking off of our net profit is only about 1.84%. Now that is only if I'm taking it right from the gross profit and then deducting the however much we paid in prep. If I deducted that from how much we paid with everything before prep, then it might be a little bit higher, but 1.84, which is a lot different than 3.59. So obviously being able to buy more inventory has significantly cut this amount down for us, which is great. Gross margin target is essentially still what we're going for, is about 16.5%. And my total net profit that I want to make for April is going to be 30K. So that is the target net profit. So getting into the Google Sheet here for the first week of March, you guys can see that we are heavily under where we need to be spend wise in order to spend 200K this month. Very, very under where we need to be. So not happy about that. Again, we have 15K worth of COGS on hold, but is what it is. You guys already know the rest of these numbers here just because I broke them down in the Google Doc. So we'll go ahead and move into the net projections and just show you guys what's in there. And yeah, essentially our overhead is pretty much still the same. I believe I do need to fix these specific overhead markers for next video, so I'll be able to do that before then. But this is essentially what it's looking like right now. So pretty simple overview of, first week of April. The more juicy stuff is going to be a little bit later when we talk about like March's P&L. And then also, of course, like what I've been working on this past week and just how everything has gone there. Let's go ahead and get into seller board. I'll show you guys how the first week of April looks and how everything went there. And then we'll dig into March's final P&L. Okay, so for my first week of April, you can see that I sold 77K worth of product here, over 1,500 units, 61 refunds, and a gross profit of about 12.4K in gross profit. You can see our refund was about 3.9%. Sellable returns are god awful right now. I'm not sure what's up with that. 16% gross margin though, so definitely not bad. So let's go ahead and deduct all of our overhead costs and things like that from this equation, and we'll essentially figure out how much our net profit and net margin is for the first week of April. Okay, and as you guys can see here, we made about $9,286.16 of a projected profit for the first week of April. So very, very good there. Pretty happy with that. That's definitely over 10%, of course. So we'll go ahead and take that 9,286.16 number here, and we're going to go ahead and divide that by our sales to see what our net margin was projected for the first week of April. Looking to be about a 12%. Realistically, once I adjust the extra $500 in overhead though that I didn't count for in this week because I forgot to, we will probably be closer to 11.5%, and profits looking to be about like $8,500. Still not bad. I'm just a little bit disappointed with how the performance of this first week went, but again, we'll go ahead and get into that in a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the Google Doc, and I'm gonna show you guys what my bookkeeper gave us as the final P&L for for March. So let's go ahead and get into that. Before I do, one thing I want to show here is Seller Central payouts. So we got paid out $40K for the first week of April, which is okay. I feel like we're owed a little bit more than that, if I'm being honest. You can see that we only took 3 payouts this week. But moving into QuickBooks here, we can actually see that if I zoom in close enough, you guys will be able to see that this is March of 2026. Okay, so our net operating income was about 28K in profit, but then after our Amazon FBA reimbursement hit, a little bit of credit cards and stuff like that, which I don't like to count credit card rewards and cashback, and inventory liquidation income, I guess, is, part of that. It looks like we ended off March with about $32,000 and some change in profit. Again, I'm not going to count credit card rewards and cashback for that. So think right around about 31.8 is what we finished March with, which is great. Really blessed to be able to just have continued going up and up and up and up. It's really cool to see that. And I'm just overall stoked. But now it's time to get into a little bit about why I feel a little bit down going into April, because as I was telling you guys in episode 13, momentum is everything and you got to hold on to it as long as possible. And, inevitably things are not going to be as great as they once were. And we're going to talk about kind of how that's applying to my situation right now. So we'll go ahead and get it. All right. So reason we're doing talking head is because I didn't even lay this stuff out in the Google Doc, just because I decided in today's episode, I'm going to do just a raw sit down and talk about some of the topics that I normally talk about, but just in talking head form. So what I was working on this past week for the first week of April, I went to Chicago for about 3 days, I believe. So during that time, I was really just vetting leads from my VAs, making sure that any replens were done before I left for the trip, and just making sure that the business had a good foundation set before obviously I was away. It's not that the business cannot run without me, but with all of the new changes and things that we are expecting to make in April, my time is going to be very, very valued in terms of input this whole month. So I really wanted to try and get us off to a hot start. You guys saw the spend numbers. They were not bad, but they also weren't great. And essentially that was what I was working on for this past week, was just doing a lot of maintenance work. But something that I plan to do for next week is actually going in and making all of the new automations, all of the new systems in our internal software. And my plan with this and my goal is to essentially make adding inbound entries to a prep center portal automatic, so that my VAs don't have to do it one by one, or they don't have to do it 2 times over, because they already add inbound entries to my own software. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to be working on a way to get my seller board cost of goods automatically done through Claude Cowork, which should be really exciting, and hopefully it can do it well. I also plan to create some sort of audit system around inbound and inventory entries in a prep center portal sitting for too long. So we do that right now manually with my admin VA, but that obviously takes quite a bit of time to go through all the tracking numbers, see what's delivered, then be able to flag it as like, oh, it's been 10 days with a delivery, we need to open a ticket. And then also diving deeper on the ticket system. Right now it's kind of just like we're opening tickets for, what we're catching. But the problem is I feel like we're not getting to a resolution either fast enough, or we're not getting to those resolutions. So I'm going to build out a whole ticket system as well internally, so that we can keep following up and tracking the status of what's going on in our prep center. I'm going to do this all without the use of their API. Just going to be messing around with some stuff in my own software, seeing what we can come up with, and everything like that. So as you guys can see, my plate is pretty full, because I'm also still trying to maintain a spend goal this month of 200K. And we're not off to a bad start, but it's just not ideal, I would say, because we're behind already. And yeah, it's been a struggle this week, I'll be honest. Like, I feel like this week is really the coming back to earth, because I have a ton of things that I need to do from, systemically, I need to do stuff. Our purchase order guy is still in training, so he's not fully ready to go yet. My main buyer actually got sick this week, and she wasn't able to work for like 3 days. So I've been really stressed out about stuff just sitting in the buy sheet, which has definitely led to a lack of spend. And, I really feel like right now everything is on me to perform. I do feel like it's getting harder and harder to rely on my team, because they've just been making mistakes. And I'll be honest, I've been getting a bit frustrated, but, it's part of running a business, right? You have to be a leader, and you have to be able to pull people up even when, maybe they're not having the best day or things aren't going as well. And I do plan to take meetings with everyone and essentially sit them down and make sure that everything is good on their end, so that we can continue moving forward as a team. And hopefully all of these new systematic changes do make a big difference in the workflow and the day-to-day for each of these team members that I have, because I know right now on the back end, it's still really messy. I touched on that earlier in episode 13, where I was saying like we spent so much money in March, but our back end just, I don't think was ready to handle a 200K spend month. And now we're trying to essentially recover from that, make better systems on the fly while maintaining another 200K spend month. So it's just been a lot. I've been pretty overworked, I feel like, and it's probably going to continue that way for the rest of the month. But I really hope by May, everyone knows their roles, everyone knows the new operating procedures and new expectations, and essentially everybody has coverage, everyone has support, and the business can hopefully end at that 200K mark. I wanted to spend more this month than that. I felt like I was capable to spend maybe 230, 250, but just understanding that like I have a lot of other priorities even outside of the business, like making content for you guys and things like that. I had to understand that like I'm probably not going to be able to spend like crazy unless there's just leads literally coming to me. So because of that, spend's going to be a little bit on the back burner this month. I'm not proud to say that, but I would want to come out of April with really competent staff, really good expectations and SOPs over what everything we are doing is moving forward, and just better processes and systemic advancements to hopefully make the workflow a lot more bearable, down the line and things like that. And I guess the lesson that I learned from this week is that business is tough, guys. Like, and you also got to understand what I was saying about momentum in last week's episode is, if you guys actually listen to what I was saying, like momentum really is super finite. And this is why when I was in that momentum phase, I was like, you know what, let me worry about the back end when I have so much good stuff going on the front end that I have to worry about it, because this is how momentum works. Like business is always like this, right? It's never just a linear progression upward. And I knew that, right? I was very fully aware that like a bad day is coming in a sense. I hate to be that guy, but like a bad day is coming and you have to just ride the wave of good days as long as possible so that, when bad things happen, right, you have at least done so much good that it really does outweigh the bad. And then you just got to find a way to dig yourself out of that hole. I think the hole that it kind of got myself in was nothing really to do with me, but I think that the growth that we had produced was something that no one was really ready for. We didn't have the infrastructure to handle it. And my VA then being out for a few days as I'm out of town really puts a lot of stress on me because stuff's not getting bought. And then obviously our backup guy that we're trying to mitigate this type of risk is still in training. So it's just like, I feel like no one's helping me, but it's like, it's just kind of the unfortunate way that business is sometimes. You feel lonely. You feel like, no one's coming to save you because they're not. So you got to kind of suck it up and figure out where you can be better as a leader, whether it's to yourself or for your team. And, just keep pushing forward because it's a very small amount of time that you spend in the trenches if you do it right. And you can get out of there very quickly and get back on the high horse and continue scaling or continue growing your business however you want to do that. And yeah, so that was kind of like my raw sit down I wanted to give you guys for this video. A little bit shorter of a video just in this one. I feel like, I might have rushed through a little bit of some stuff here, but I did want to get everything just sort of off my chest and let you guys know what's been going on in the business, let you guys know where we stand at and overall just where I'm at and, how I'm feeling at this point after coming off of such a good month last month. It's a lot to live up to, but, I'm definitely down for the challenge. And I know it's just going to make me stronger and better as a leader. So that's going to be all for me in this one, guys. Again, feel free to check out the newsletter. Link is in the description below. Again, if you need help starting or scaling your Amazon business, that is the place to be. And with all that out of the way, I will catch you guys in next week's weekly update video, which is going to be episode 15. So until then, see you guys later. Peace out.